watch any sport, same way, right? Rollerblading, soccer, ice skating, right? American football, baseball. Yeah, baseball. Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay. I didn't know there were these many sports in TV, right? I don't know. I mean, I've noticed that many of you are young teachers, yeah, but way long time. I'm not going to give away my age. Yeah. Some Analita says that she prefers to practice than watching it. Very good. Thank you. Okay. In the past, there used to be less sports that were on TV. Yeah. Now, if you have cable, or even if you don't have cable, right, or with YouTube or social media, you can watch any kind of sports all the time. There is always a team playing against another team everywhere in the world, or there are some sports that people playing and practicing and showing how skillful they are, and we on the other side of the screen saying, "Wow, those people are really talented." But then we do have yeah, but it's interesting how the world of sports has changed. Okay, good. This is just let's say this is a 30-second engaging activity with your students if you're teaching in a live online remote platform. We will talk about that later. But you don't need to really go into big dissertation about sports. Just ask them to type in the name, and that will give you the meaning.
¿Quién es aquí? Fernanda Monroy y Jessica Montla.
I'm sorry if I move my hands a lot, right? I mean, if I just get hands tied, so I need to use my hands to communicate. Sorry, sorry if you.
Yes, si me escuchas.
Okay, I think we teachers have that pair of hands.
Sí, oye, ya nos dieron autorización, también para Fernanda. Ya nos dieron la autorización de poder deja, Sandy.
Hola, teacher.
Oye, te voy a pedir un favorzote a Sandy. En el grupo, ya nos dieron autorización ahorita de poder no estar en clase, porque no sé si escuchan. Estoy en una conferencia de Cambridge, que nos metieron a este curso. Entonces ya nos autorizaron que pues no estemos en clase. Lo único que tienen que hacer es la página 151 que está ahí.
Okay.
Entonces nada más que pongas en el grupo, sí, que pues bueno, se tiene que hacer la página 151, sí, y que la suban a plataforma.
Okay, teacher.
Sí, y ya mañana checamos eso. ¿Sale?
Va.
Entonces, aunque esté mal, aunque estén las respuestas mal, Sandy, Fernanda, Jessica, sí, súbanla así y ya mañana checamos todo. ¿Sale? Traten de hacerlo con lápiz. Entonces, por favor, porque no me puedo salir de la sesión y pues ya, eso sería todo, ¿sí? No hay ningún problema. Ya están avisados en dirección, ya se les va a poner asistencia a los que estuvieron en la primera y ahorita en la segunda sesión. Entonces, para que le pongas, por favor, eso, ¿sí, Sandy?
Sí, ahorita les digo.
Órale, pues sí, yo nada más me quedo unos 5 minutos más y cierro la sesión para aquellos que estén despistados y que no vean el mensaje en el grupo. Sí, que ya mañana nos vemos a la hora normal, con clase normal.
Ok, entonces 151, ¿verdad?
Sí, la 151, por favor.
Sí, ok, está bien. Ahorita les digo.
Gracias a todos.
There is selected vocabulary carefully benchmarked, aligned to the Common European European framework exam level and is given special attention in dedicated practice sections. So if you see here, we do have the practice section. We will go in further into that later on, where you will be able to identify very specific items that are relevant to the exam certification that they will take. Okay, just very quickly check if there's anything in the chat. All right. Okay. Francisco Nathanael is asking, how can we do speaking activities online? I'm really glad that you asked that question. Bear with me for a few minutes. We will work with some strategies, Francisco, on how to use them in remote. Okay. Good. Right. Moving on. Prepare to write. I don't know. I would like to hear your perception in this. Yeah. But from different skills, productive, receptive skills, sometimes writing is the one that gets lower attention in course books, in programs, in syllabus. Sometimes we tend to think that a communicative approach towards the language course book or towards the language program aims for students to speak, to communicate, and to have verbal communication, which is true. Yeah, that's an important part of it. However, writing sometimes gets kind of undermined. Yeah, writing becomes that obscure part of language learning that sometimes we teachers say like, well, writing will magically come at some point. Yeah, it will appear. It will be there. Yeah, they would develop it. And then we over challenge our students, assuming that because they have certain level of speaking, their language, the level of writing, it pairs up. And that's not always accurate. We sometimes have situations in which students are good at communicating, but on the other hand, the level of writing is not the same and needs to be boosted in regards to how they are producing. Okay, so prepare to write sections provide students with clear steps to write in their own emails, short messages, notes, and stories. And that has to do with the process of writing. We cannot challenge our students above the level of language that they are able to produce. What I'm trying to say here is that when we have activities that are over challenging to students' level, well, that is a turnoff. That is putting students down into their capacity to develop the skill. Just going to give a very clear example. And it happened to me at early ages in teaching. That's when Middle English was Modern English. But one of the first lessons, I had no experience. I became a teacher just because I happened to kind of speak the language. Then I became a English teacher on my academic pathway. But back in the day, it was just, I mean, it was in the middle of the school year. The director of the school was desperate to get someone to fill in the gap. I was 18 and I said, well, why not? But and she helped me prepare lessons. And she said, okay, students are on holidays. When they come back from holidays, you will ask them, secondary students, you will ask them to write an essay about their holidays. I didn't know that. I just say, okay, so I'm just going to ask them to write an essay about their holidays. Please, teachers, tell me that you do that with your students because of number one, who asks students to write an essay, secondary students, about holidays? You can write a short note, a brief account, an anecdote, a relevant highlight from your holidays. But 300-word essay about holidays. And was I capable to verify, to assess, right? Yes, Vicky says they hate it. Yes, right? Okay. Yeah, they don't like to write essays, and well, we need to have that balance. Need to give it or need to write what they are capable of writing, and the kind of writing should also aim for the kind of uses of writing we do have now, right? There's a lot of texting, there's a lot of short messages, there's a lot of chat communication, there's a lot of interaction in writing at that age, yeah, that requires from short types of writing. When it comes to exam preparation, that's a different story, but I mean, we should have that balance. I see the chat. I cannot answer all the questions in the chat right now, but I've seen in the chat that some of you are asking about different materials, that components and complements from the series, like Presentation Plus, Test Generator, and some other ones. Don't worry about that. We will talk about this in a length, and if you don't have them, I will also tell you how you can have access to them. Yeah. So I'm just making these comments to lessen the anxiety that sometimes some teachers feel because of not having all components. We want you to be ready to teach back when you are in the new teaching scenario for the new school year with all the components that you need. And if you would be teaching remotely, I'm totally sure that Presentation Plus will be a great asset in your work. Okay, I cannot keep up with all the chat all the time, yeah, but I hope they will all be able to give some insights in that. Okay. There's a question about writing. Yes, it provides enough writing for them to be prepared. Now, in course preparation series, when the course book is aiming only for preparation, there's a lot of repetition of tasks. Yeah, it's kind of the same type of activities all the time. Here, since we have that balance, you will find writing all across the series, yeah, but in normal bite-sized doses, right? So it's not these big chunks of writing all the time. As I said here, right, it's in short messages, emails, notes, short stories, right? Yeah. Okay. Life skills and culture. Okay, life skills and culture, and this is an important part of what we are promoting here. I'm going to ask you a question, and I would ask you to please answer in the chat box. Yeah, it's not a philosophical question. It don't really go too long. We don't need an essay. Yeah, just in a few words. Let's say 3, 4, 5 words. What, in general? Yeah, I'm talking about our students for. And it's not only about the language. So think about your students, think about their age, think about the times, think about what will happen in the upcoming years. What are you preparing your students for? Write it there in the chat, please. It would be interesting to read. Yeah, the question, Juani, is what are you preparing your students for? Patty says real life situations. For life, says Vicky, yeah. For life, to be happy, challenges, to enjoy language, certificate, communicate, find solutions, right? Now, better life, right? Connect with the world. I think, although there are different ideas, yeah, I'm sure many of them merge. Many of them, I mean, would work around. Pedro says to develop life skills. Okay, and I'm going to stop in that because this would be my next question. Yeah, to communicate and different things. Complete language goals. I'm just going to stop with one more question. Yeah, I would ask you to answer. Think about, yeah, you don't need to type it, right? Just think about, do you think we know what, or you know what your students will become? I'm talking about professional life, for example. Do you know what they will become? In the past, it was easier. It was doctor, architect, lawyer, nurse, you know, all these cliches, English teacher, yeah. But what about them, right? Yeah, they don't even know. And they, to be honest, they don't even need to know right now. But because of how the world changes, do you think it's fair to give them all that knowledge because they want to be, let's say, engineers or architects or whatever occupation they would have? Yeah, we don't, right? So we are preparing for students for a future that is uncertain. And uncertain is not in this spooky, scary way to say things. Yeah, an uncertain future is just because we don't really know what's going to happen. A student that is 12, 13, 14 years old right now, yeah, by the year 2050 would be a professional working in certain field, but he should have been, he should be prepared to adapt. He should be prepared to communicate. He should be prepared to have creative thinking. And he should be prepared to collaborate. Yeah, and it's important. And it's important to be able to identify that we will be preparing our students for what many of you say, for life, right? So this has to be embedded in coursebooks now. This has to be included in the way we address language as a vehicle to prepare students for life skills. We'll talk about that probably. Yvonne Rivas says we can foster their skill with a real purpose and showing the importance of communicating in different ways. Effective communication, absolutely. Yep. Okay. Ana Garcia, thank you. I'll reply to that message later. Thank you. Okay, so yes, we prepare them for life skills, and preparing them for life skills, it takes a pathway. There's a section that helps students develop competencies that they will need for the rest of their lives. Teamwork, that's collaboration. Keeping fit, right? You know, like be aware of their health, social issues, social responsibilities, creativity, and presentation skills. Presentation skills, it's interesting, and I just don't want to go off topic, but one of the Cambridge research in regards to what it is that people in general fear the most, yeah. Presenting or speaking in public became number 2, just before death, and I mean above many other things that we should be afraid of, right? Especially in these times. But speaking in public, for us teachers, it may not be that scary. You know, you are on the spot all the time. You're in front. Now you're in front of a camera when you teach your students live through this. But when you are face to face with people, it's a natural spot. Yeah, you're just there face to face with students. You feel comfortable. You move around. But people who are not used to that get stage free. They feel like, oh, this is too much. It's a very hot spot. And presentation and be able to present and to clearly communicate things, that's a skill that needs to be developed. For you teachers, it's a piece of cake most of the time. I'm going to show you a very short video about the Cambridge Framework for Life Competencies. So for you to identify that the role of a teacher, at least now, the role of the English teacher has shifted from what it used to be in the past, which was tenses, grammar, vocabulary, language patterns, idiom, jokes, and Friday movies. It has shifted into preparing our students for many different things. That doesn't mean that we're putting language aside. That means that we are evolving in what we are presenting our students and what we are preparing our students for. I'll show you this video clip that gives you an insight of Cambridge Framework for Life Competencies, because that's an interesting aspect that comes along with preparing.
When we prepare our students for the future now, for their futures, we have to realize the world is changing very fast and that the work that they will need to do is very different to what we have done.
In English language teaching, students aren't just developing language, they're developing a whole range of other skills.
To negotiate, they need to communicate with each other, they need to collaborate with each other.
The Cambridge Life Competencies Framework is a comprehensive system that includes 6 key competencies:
Creative thinking,
critical thinking, communication, collaboration, learning to learn, social responsibilities. The framework looks at how these competencies develop over the learning journey.
right from pre-primary kindergarten all the way up to university and adulthood.
Each competency has its own set of can-do descriptions of observable classroom behaviour. These are really important for teachers as it allows them to see where students are doing well and where they need extra support.
Cambridge is the only publisher which is investigating how these skills can be integrated systematically into the learning of English.
Integrating the life competencies framework into our materials means that teachers are able to focus more on these life competencies in their classes without actually having to put a lot more preparation into their lesson planning.
The framework offers a clear and unambiguous path to creating well-rounded individuals.
We understand that you want to give your students the best chance to achieve their ambitions.
It's really important that students are learning more than just the subject. Of course, it's important to learn English language, grammar, and vocabulary, but it's also an opportunity to develop those skills which will help them become the people they want to become.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it freezes. It has to do with internet sometimes, right? Apologize if it was freezing. Hopefully you were able to catch a few of the things that were said in there. So what it aims students for is to be able to develop different aspects into their presence and into their projection as individuals in what they will become. Okay, all right. Okay, thanks for the input here that it froze. Yeah, but the audio was clear. So, if you remember, do you remember some of the life competencies that were mentioned in there? If you can just type them, there were many C's in there, right? C of collaboration and many other C's. So, if you remember some of them, that would be good. You can chat if you can put them in there. That would be fantastic, right? Okay, critical thinking. Okay, communication, critical thinking, learning to learn. All right, creative thinking, very good, and many other ones. Thanks for that. Okay. And as I said, right, life skills and culture are also part of what students really need in terms of working around their different engaging activities, things they would want to know about, things they would want to find more about, and things that topics that you should also be competing against. Yeah, by competing I mean students have sources for information nowadays that they sometimes feel like the information they will find in a course book, the information they will get in a class would be irrelevant to them. And I think one of the big challenges to make this approachable, to make this accessible to them, to make this let's say something they want to find more about into their everyday life. And the other aspect that I think it's relevant is that detaching from the notion that it's learning. Yeah, when we address this as learning, that's sometimes a turn off for students. If it's fun, if it's playing, if it's information that is there that they can access in different ways, even though that's learning, but we don't label it as learning, students feel, let's say, more comfortable talking about that. If you say, oh, okay, today we will learn about social media, you're turning students off, right? You're just learning. That's not necessarily a word that I want to hear if I'm in between 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, or 58, 16 years old, right? So you just want to have that your students getting engaged, and that's why it is important. Since we're having, I have a short clip here. Thank you for the feedback in regards to it slowing down. So I'm going to skip the video that I have about social media and how to work with that. Or let's see. Well, it tells me that it's stable now. Let's see. Let's fingers crossed. There's a short clip that comes in the series that talks a little bit about social media, and then we will have an activity about that. So, crossing my fingers that you will be able to see it, right? If you don't, see it, or if it stops a little bit, it's not a long video, right? Let's hope it plays. Okay, here it goes. Oops. Okay. Here it goes. Fingers crossed. Social media has become a part of daily life. For some people, it is something they use many times a day and on many different platforms. Checking likes to their posts and waiting for the next ping. They use it for school, for work, and often just for fun. But is social media controlling us? Have you ever tried not using it for a day, or a week, or longer? If you haven't, you might be ready for a social media detox. Studies show that breaks from social media can improve your studies, your friendships, and even your own health. So why is it so hard to stop using social media? Think about what happens after you post something and you're waiting for a reply. Your body is anticipating that ping, that like, and your brain wakes up when it happens. It produces something in our brain called dopamine, and our brain likes it. That's why you're checking, and soon you can't stop. Here are some things you can do to start a social media detox. Number 1, deactivate all, yes, all of your social media accounts. This will make it more difficult for you to check. Number 2, remove all social media apps from your phone and other devices. Number 3, block all social media sites from your web browser. Number 4,
Replace the time you spent checking social media with other activities. Play an instrument. Hang out with your best friend. Do something outside. Your social media detox can take 3 months or more. This is how long it takes to make the dopamine cycle in your brain begin again. But if this sounds like too long, try it for at least a week. Then maybe 1 more week. Soon you will find you're spending real time with your friends again. That is, if your friends do a social media detox too. You have more time for your studies. And you are probably sleeping better. After all, if you use your phone as your alarm clock, it's the first thing you check when you wake up. Maybe it's time for an old-fashioned alarm clock. That could be your first step to your social media detox.
Okay. Are you ready for a social media detox? Who has raise your hand? There's in the participation tab. There's a chance for you to raise hands, right? Raise your hands if you have ever tried a media detox in your life. Oh, Jasmine says yes. Tanya, all right, okay. All right, some of you have. Great, congratulations, very good. All right, some of you are writing in the chat that you have. Now, all right, now, that's interesting, right? And perhaps these times that we have